Graham Gartland here at the Hellfire Club. Welcome to Clear the Head. Each week we'll be talking to a member of Shamrock Rovers Football Club, going for a walk through their life and their journey. Thanks for giving over your time today, appreciate it. You started as a centre back then with Home Farm.
Yeah, I played centre back. I won a played schoolboy internationals at centre back. Then living away from home London at the time, you know, to Ireland, like Ireland in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe to people now, like younger people, what it was like, but there was no employment. And the League Cup final used to be played early in the season, and the final was in Oriel, and there was 15,000 at the game. My mother and father described outside the ground, there had to be, they said, over 5,000 that couldn't get in. Turdy just came to me one night and said, Liverpool want you to go over for a few days. I played Tuesday night against Southampton, and after the game they said they wanted to sign me.
Was that the Gleesh at the time?
Yeah. I would have spent a lot of time with Steve Staunton. I actually moved into Steve's house, and then the next day I played a reserve game and I tore my hamstring.
Right.
And really, little did I know, that was the start of a prolonged injury time for me.
Right.
I remember as a boy,
the
FA Cup, I used to have a ball under my arm, and when the match of the day music would come on, I'd run out with it, and like to say you're on match of the day, playing in it. You know, now you kind of look back and say, well, that was nice to do.
Not just a Rovers legend, but a football legend in this country, Tony Cousins. Thanks for giving over your time today, appreciate it.
No problem, Gert. Big opening there.
Listen.
Could be in for a few hard questions now.
Yeah. Your family is steeped in tradition. Your father, who obviously we met before he passed away, was Everton scout as well, wasn't he, growing up for yous?
Yeah, Everton, Man City, Dundee United, so...
Yeah? Never got into any of them clubs though,
ran schoolboy teams for over 30 years. A lot of people in schoolboy football would have known him. So he was... and
how big an influence was he on your career?
Massive, you know what I mean. I think the biggest thing about my father, he was always honest. Yeah. You know, and I think honesty as a footballer is probably the best thing you can ever look for.
As a person as well, isn't it?
Yeah, if I was poor, he'd let you know, and
would he do it in a constructive way, or was it?
Yeah, he would. Yeah, but he was always there for me, very encouraging, and you know. But you know, I think you always respect someone that's honest. Whether if you look back in your career as a player, and you had a manager that was honest, you rather that than someone that kind of went around the houses with you, and maybe you found out a couple of months later when you're being let go he didn't like it.
Yeah. And your mother's side of the family then is all the Dunn, so that would have been Theo Dunn, and then obviously Richie's involved in that, Richie Dunn.
Yeah, and like my Uncle Theo obviously was Shells, but Uncle Patsy played, Noel played, Dick, which is Richard's father, they all played League of Ireland. So
did you feel as a kid then there was only one sort of thing you wanted to do, or was it put upon you, or was it something you gravitated to yourself? Like
something I loved doing. It's, you know, from all I can remember as a small child, was having a ball in my hand.
And where did you just grow up originally before moving this direction?
Grey Square. That's where I started my life in the Liberties. Yeah. And I moved at 2.5 to Glenview. Right. In Tala, which was probably my dad's mother and father thought we were moving down the country.
Yeah, we were the same, yeah.
Then...
What are you going out there for?
Exactly, yeah. So, Tala's so much different now, it's so big. Yeah. At the time, really, there was only the village.
Yeah, that's right. The shop in the village, wasn't there? Used to go into.
And there was there was the Priory there, the Priory grounds, and that we used to play the basketball courts, and
Yeah.
so.
And then you going into organised football, then you went to Home Farm originally, then did you?
I played local.
Yeah. Which
And
local team was around Tala at the time?
It was a club my dad had set up called Dabs,
Right.
and Frank Price was involved, and a few other people were involved there, and my dad ran a team there, and then I started playing there. I used to kind of play up levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Age groups, you mean? Like you
Yeah,
played,
different. I just loved playing. I played in goal as well at the time, so I play maybe in the morning. I play out for the 10 A's, and in the afternoon I go and goal for the 10 B's.
All right, yeah.
So
Because your dad was always around, so you just stayed around.
yeah,
here.
if somebody wanted me to play, and then the following day I might play for the bigger team.
Yeah.
So then, kind of as a progression, I went to Lourdes for 1 year.
All right.
1 season, and then I went to Home Farm, and I spent 5 seasons at Home Farm.
You started as a centre back then with Home Farm.
Yeah, I played centre back. I won a played schoolboy internationals at centre back. So was really then at 16. I wasn't really going to grow. I was probably 5'8" at 15.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was like tall at then, but I knew I wasn't going to like grow much more.
Height-wise,
Like 5'9". I'm 5'9".
Yeah.
So, and my dad's 5'6". So I kind of knew I wasn't
Yeah.
going to get the 6 foot or whatever. So if I wanted to progress to the level I did, I needed to move position.
Right.
And
would you have spoke to your dad about that?
Yeah,
then?
definitely.
And he would have been the one.
yeah,
saying,
he would have been the one as well, saying, well, you've got to be realistic here.
Yeah.
And I moved to Belvedere for a year. I wanted to play in midfield, so I went and moved there for the season. And then
How did you find the change? Because obviously we coach younger kids, and like going from centre back to midfield, it becomes where the game goes from being in front of you all the time to being all around you. Was that something you adapted to well, or did it take a little bit of time?
No, I think I just didn't really think about it. I think.
Did your extra aggression though help from being a centre back then?
Yeah,
going in?
yeah, and I think what happens to you is as well when you're playing different positions, you come a little bit more rounded.
Yeah, understand the game.
Understand the game a little bit more, and it kind of helps you when you do move positions.
Yeah.
So that was kind of progression
Was
into
that under 16? Tony?
under 16.
So would you went Chelsea come calling then?
Yeah.
Or did you go? Like, did you do your leaving cert before you went?
No, junior cert, and
did you go later, or did you go later than some others, or did you go
No,
right around the time everyone else went?
July.
Yeah.
July was the time you went.
Yeah.
I was 17 in August, and it was like it's what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
there was also, like, we touched on this with the other players, and even the modern players now. There's probably nothing here for you to go into.
No, and people talk about like now with your education and university, and
Yeah.
there was very few people that I knew then went to university even.
Okay.
So your leaving was kind of
Yeah.
the highest a lot went, and then they got work. So the way it is for me, I wanted the opportunity, and when they asked me to sign, that's what I wanted to do.
And how long did Chelsea offer you?
2 years.
2 years. Straight into pro as soon as you turned 17 in August, was it?
Yeah, we were on it's like
It's called the groundsman.
yeah, YTS.
Yeah. And how did you find moving to
It's
to go to London, because London at the time compared to Dublin is massive, isn't it?
It was.
What year was that, Tony?
That was 1986.
And was it difficult being Irish
It
over
was
there
massive.
at the time?
Yeah, it was big change, you know what I mean, at the time. Probably our accent as well. A couple of people, when they heard it, you felt there was a little bit of, don't know, animosity, and then in the games, you know, you would get a little bit off the other players and that. And you have to adapt to that. And then living away from home London at the time, you know, to Ireland, like Ireland in the 80s, it's hard to describe to people now, like younger people, what it was like. But there was no employment, probably city centre, you know, wasn't shops, bars, restaurants that we have now, the vibrancy in the city. So going to London, such a massive place to go to.
And how did you settle? Did it take you a while to settle?
I was lucky. I got into digs with a lovely family, Breda and Vince, and they looked after us, and Pat Fenlon had signed as well.
All right, very good.
So myself and Pat were in digs together, so that was a help.
And how did the football then? Because Chelsea isn't the Chelsea everybody knows now. It was Stamford Bridge was a big open bowl, wasn't it? Training ground. I think you trained the local park as well.
I actually have notes at home from a pre-season, and I wrote down the pre-season. So I wrote down what we did, and it's funny as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old to do that. You do think back then, did you always feel you were going to go on and maybe coach and do what you were doing? Because I don't think there's many who would have wrote down. But at the top of the page I have Dog Shit Park. It was Battersea Park we trained in. And done our pre-season, all the running and that. And
back then it was long runs, wasn't it?
But London as well was like, it's a lot of days 100 degrees in London in the summer. So, and the running was steep. So so
that's where you sort of drifted in between being a striker and a midfielder then?
Went in as a midfielder, and then after a while the coach Gwyn Williams pushed me up centre forward. So it was the first time really that I started to play there, and then the second season I played regularly up front.
And was it a freedom to it that you enjoyed, or did you just enjoy scoring then? Did you just get a taste for that?
Enjoyed scoring, but probably, you know, it's more rounded. You know, I felt, you know, you're getting the ball into you, bringing players into the game. You obviously, every frontman loves scoring. But I was always quite aggressive in the air, so I was probably going back to my days as a centre back. And when I was a schoolboy international, I did extra training with my dad, and I used to put sand bags on my shoulders.
Looks like you still have a few.
And I used to practice jumping, heading the ball back with these. And I've no doubt, like, it was one of the things that, you know, throughout my career,
you still had a
I was really good. I had a great spring in the air, and it didn't really matter who I played against. Height wise, you know, I'd always give big centre backs problems, even in the air.
Then you leave Chelsea and come back to, you go on loan as well though. You go on loan to Middlesbrough, and then you end up leaving Chelsea and come back to Dundalk, is it?
No, I left Chelsea with a very good side at Chelsea.
Billy Dodds and stuff was playing.
We won all the London Cups.
And that's tough back then. Arsenal.
Arsenal, Spurs, everybody in it.
West Ham always had good youth teams as well.
With a good few. David Lee ended up going on to play for Chelsea. Jason Cundy played for Chelsea.
They were Talksport now, doesn't he?
They were the two centre backs. As you said, Billy Dodds, Graham Stewart.
Yeah, he was a good player.
Came in the second year as a first year.
He broke into the first team as well.
He did. Chelsea, so there was a really good core, really good team there. You know what I mean? So It was good, but then you come to the end of your contract, played a few reserve games at the end, and came to contracts, and I wasn't getting one.
Right.
And Colin Lee was a coach. It's funny with your football.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
How you doing?
It's funny, you know, how with football, Colin Lee was a player at Chelsea.
Okay.
And he had dropped down to help with the youth team. I built up a good relationship with him, and he went to Brentford.
Right.
And when I knew my contract wasn't, he'd obviously got told as well.
Yeah.
And he'd become a coach at Brentford, and he had asked me would I be interested in going there. And the day my dad went to Brentford, he'd been brought into the first team because of injuries, and he broke his jaw.
Oh no.
We never got to meet.
Right.
Never got to meet him, and you know, that was it really.
Yeah.
I came home then, and lucky enough, when I came home, John Cody had been at Chelsea.
That's right. Yeah, JC.
And it's brilliant, like JC.
Still your friend to this day.
Yeah, I would have seen JC playing for the first team so many times, and
Yeah.
you know, he was very accomplished, left foot, never looked out of place when he played for the first team. You know, it's really one of those, like he achieved so much at Rovers and all.
How you doing?
Sorry.
No, we're on a slow pace. You can keep going there.
Get out your way.
One and a half knees here.
But no, but he was a really good player.
And he got in contact with you and brought
He
you
got
back to you.
he got in contact with Turlock O'Connor.
Yeah.
And said I was going home and I'd be worth signing. So really, the following week after going home, Turlock arrived and signed me
Yeah.
for Dundalk.
And you went in as a striker then?
Went in as a striker.
Did you get Young Player of the Year?
Dundalk now, the first year Dundalk played, they were after playing Derry in the FAI Cup final.
Right. Was trouble at that one,
in
wasn't
the
there?
May, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, they beat Derry in the May, and then we got to the League Cup final, and the League Cup final used to be played early in the season, and the final was in Oriel, and there was 15,000 at the game. Now if you look at Oriel now,
Yeah.
you'd say how could you,
It was all standing.
but my mother and father described outside the ground there had to be, they said, over 5,000 that couldn't get in. When we came out for the game, there was people on the roof.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. But Derry were brilliant that night, absolutely.
Was that the treble winning team?
Yeah, I think they went on to win the treble that year,
Yeah.
but they hammered us 4-0. And we had a very good side, but I played from the start, and it was my first learning curve of really senior football.
Yeah.
Because obviously you're 18. I'd never experienced that
Yeah.
atmosphere before, and I played as a striker, but that night Turlock played me on the right to get at Kevin Brady, who I didn't even really know Kevin at the time. And the first ball that came out to me, Kevin hit me and the ball, and I ended up on the door track.
Right.
And it was a welcome call that this is what you're not going to run me tonight.
Yeah.
And I came off, I think after an hour I was brought off, but I didn't play well, I didn't affect the game.
Yeah.
And I was...
Yeah, so from that learning curve then, you obviously then go as a striker and you have a fantastic season.
No, I actually didn't. That season I came in and out.
Right.
I picked up a groin injury and didn't play for a few months of the season, and it was really at the end of that season that I got a run in the team, and I think I finished off the season, maybe I scored 5 goals in 4 games or whatever.
At the tail end of the season.
The tail end of the season.
Yeah.
So that kicked me into the start of the following year, and I played every game. Then the following year, I won Young Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year with
Many goals you get that
with
season?
Vinnie Arkins. I think I got 20 for the season, and
see, that's a fella that gave. See the lesson you're talking about with Kevin Brady. That's a fella that gave me a lesson when I first came into the league, Vinnie Arkins.
Vinnie, yeah.
Yeah, he just held me off and was like putting his hand out to hit his
Yeah.
chest and all, and got stuck behind him. What do you do? So that gave me a wake-up call.
I
as
played with Vinnie with the under-21 international team. He was a really good player
Yeah.
to play up with.
And what
You
type
know.
of striker were you compared to, say, your Rovers days? Because I was listening to Shawnee Francis describe how, because of obviously a knee injury, which you can go into later, you became a penalty box striker. Were you more active? Were you more of a runner then?
I'll be honest with you. No, I think that came with experience as well.
Right.
I think sometimes when you're younger, you just make runs for the sake of making runs.
Yeah.
Whereas as you get older, you're more productive with your runs.
Yeah, you're timing them better.
Yeah, and I
making
think,
the most of them.
you know, for me, I always worked 18 yard to 18 yard in those areas.
Yeah.
And when the ball went wide, because I was dangerous in the air, I was always on the move in the box. And you know, people, you know, they say, well, he was penalty box, but if you had a camera on me around the box, I always never stood.
Yeah.
I was always on the move in the box. So I might have made 8 to 10
movers,
runs
yeah.
to the near post all game, and maybe nothing had arrived, but the last minute, because you have to be prepared to keep gambling.
Yeah.
And it was really, I remember actually listening to Gary Lineker talking about that. You know, people say, oh, he just knows how to be in the right area. And Gary Lineker said, well, it's not really, it's being prepared to gamble in those areas. It's like even as a coach now, you're the same. You see balls going across a 6-yard box,
Yeah.
and the player's not taking that chance to
Yeah.
get in there. You've got to make sure you gamble and you get in. So your runs are more 5 yards, 10 yards.
Yeah, rather than obviously big channel run. You're flying at Dundalk to attract interest from Liverpool. How does that come about?
Well, obviously I was in the international, the under-21 team
Right.
as well, and I was playing well, and there was a little bit of rumblings around. I think during the end of that season, there was a club from Germany over that thoroughly introduced, I can't even remember the team, that thoroughly introduced the people that were there to me.
Right.
And so kind of knew, and between the papers were linking me to a few clubs, that something might have been bubbling.
Right.
But I wasn't really too worried about it, you know.
And
And
were you training full time at Dundalk? Or
no,
were you part-time?
no, we were part-time.
And were you working during the day? or
Working
was-
during the day. I was serving me time as electrician.
Right.
So it was so from that season, it was really the following season, and we went into the season, and I played the first 4 games, and I scored 3 goals, and I played up with Peter Hanrahan, and Turley just came to me one night and said, Liverpool want you to go over for a few days. Would you be? He said a week at first, and I kind of said I can't take a week's
Off work.
off work.
Yeah.
So we came back and said they'd bring you over for 3 days. So it was over the Monday. I trained Tuesday morning with the team. I played Tuesday night against Southampton, and after the game they said they wanted to sign me.
Was that Dalglish at the time?
Yeah.
What was it like meeting him?
It was brilliant, obviously, but I think the one thing about Kenny was he was the same with everybody.
Yeah.
I think the papers portrayed him as cold.
Dry, yeah.
Yeah, but around the football club, he wasn't like that. No matter who was walking down the corridor, whether it was one of the youth players or myself or one of the big
And what was
first team
What
players.
was that environment like at Liverpool at the time? Because
It was brilliant.
I think it was, what was it, 89, 90?
Yeah.
So it was just after Hillsborough, was it?
Yeah, it was obviously very difficult for the people that were involved. I would have spent a lot of time with Steve Staunton. I actually moved into Steve's house, and obviously he was involved that day, and you know, I couldn't even really go into talking about what those players went through, because you could only imagine
You wouldn't want
the
to
scars
imagine,
that it did leave. And I think ultimately it's probably, you know, maybe why the manager left in the end, because of what he did. And I think, you know, what people said was he went to every funeral, and you know, himself and his wife, and but
he handled it really well, didn't he?
Yeah,
for the people, for the city, but
I think
he
that
probably
showed.
cost them.
I think that showed the sort of man that he was, you know. And
what was the environment like around, like in terms of training? Because Liverpool was still probably nearly at the height. You had Barnes, Beardsley, Aldridge, Rush. I think Aldridge might have just left.
We trained in Melwood, so in the mornings we met at Anfield.
You got the bus.
We changed there, and the youth team, reserves, and first team were all on a coach down to Melwood in 20 minutes, but about 15 minutes. But it was kind of a time that everybody were together and talking, and that was good for camaraderie. And then after training, the same again, back to Anfield. We'd have lunch in Anfield, and the lunch area, and I kind of have to describe this because there was a change in this format. There was 3 local women used to come in, like your mammy. Used to come in and make lunch, and you pay your £1 coin every day, and it didn't matter who you were. You'd be in the book. But you could see even the first team and all, they'd be in and have their arms around the women, you know, and having a bit of crack. But everybody went for lunch, and you know, it builds a camaraderie there as well in relation to that. And so it was really, really good. Got going then, and I think Kenny liked me. That's why he signed me. He involved me in the first team training, and then myself and kind of Steve McMenamin were obviously playing in the reserves, and he involved us at that time. And then Steve McMenamin got on the bench for one of the games, and then the following week he got on that week. I think there were 2 up. The following week I was on the bench against Southampton.
What was that feeling like? Because like you said, you've been Chelsea, back to Ireland, then back over. What was that feeling like, sitting on the bench for Liverpool?
It was kind of, it was a little bit surreal, because it was 9 weeks after sitting in the Dundalk dressing room. And the greatest thing I could ever say about the Dundalk dressing room was there was some brilliant players in that dressing room, you know, and experienced players that really helped me. So what they do is it prepares you for moments like that. Do you know what I mean? And but you just, it's like, I think in football, it's like when you do something for the first time, there's always the nerves. Like, even I remember the pre-match, and I sat down in the seat. I didn't know where to sit, and Steve McMahon came over. Steve McMahon came over and said, "That's my seat." And I thought the Dundalk lads were terrible wind-ups for, like you had Gino Lawless and you know, all that, and you know, they'd wind you up over different things. And I thought he was just testing me out, and I said, "Nah." "No, it's my seat." And so he effed me up an apple tree before the game. And I remember getting to, when I got to Anfield, Ronnie Whelan was injured, and we didn't know. I was only in the squad, so we didn't know whether I was going to be involved.
The squads were smaller back then as well, weren't they?
Yeah, there was only 2 subs.
Yeah, that's it.
So there was an 18-man squad, and when I got to the ground, Ronnie was injured, and Ronnie said to me, "I heard you sat in Macker's seat." And I says, I thought he was winding me up. And he says, no, he's like a bull in there. So I was just hoping he played well.
Wouldn't pass it to you if you came on.
He wasn't one to shirk.
Yeah. Did you pick up the knee injury in Liverpool?
No, what happened was, I was on the bench that day. There was only 2 subs, myself and Gary Ablett, who unfortunately Gary passed away there. And then I was involved in the squad for the Leeds game on New Year's Day, the first team game. And then the next day I played a reserve game and I tore my hamstring.
Right.
And really, little did I know, that was the start of a prolonged injury time for me.
Right.
I came back. I was coming back from the hamstring injury, and the Ireland under 21s, Ireland played England in Wembley.
Yeah.
And the 21s were playing on the night before, and Maurice Setters was the manager. And he rang to say if I got a game in before the game, that he'd play me. And so the club, with a local cup, so the club played a game against Southampton the week before it, and I literally lasted 4 minutes. I tore it again. So I was kind of wiped out that season. I came back just about 4 weeks before the end. My first game back, I done my ankle ligaments.
Right.
I ended up on crutches. And I remember my sister and brother-in-law, they were all over. And I walked into the hotel on crutches, and they thought I was winding them up.
Yeah.
And so that was really it then to the following season. What
would you take out of your experience at Liverpool at the time?
I think, listen, when you look back, people say, you didn't make it and you don't make it. And it's never easy for any player. Do you know what I mean? But I think in football, you have to keep looking forward. Yeah. You can't look back. It's a roller coaster, and
would your dad have been very helpful around that time then, with just giving you advice or keeping you right and not letting you get too down about your injuries and stuff?
Yeah, but I think, for me, it was all about playing.
Yeah.
I missed home if I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Sundays, I missed Sundays. Sunday was such a quiet day in England.
Yeah.
You're not
down,
you're not training. It is easier for players that are from there. You have your family around you, and you know what I mean. But listen, that was me. Other players go away, they've no problem. I had a very good family background behind me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. So you do, but the experience was fantastic when I was there as well. The third season, I got back into the squad and I didn't get on, but at that time it was an Irish player was classed as a foreigner.
Yeah.
Like they sold Steve Staunton at that period.
That's right, yeah.
Because they were only allowed three players involved, and the 3 foreign players. And so I kind of
declares for Ireland as well. He gets classed as well.
Yeah, but I just got to the stage that I needed to get out from playing reserve football.
Yeah.
And I went in and I said I wanted to try to get out on loan, and then the chief scout said Hereford had asked would I go on loan there. I didn't even know where Hereford was. Seriously, but I just wanted to play senior football.
Because you had a taste of it, Dundalk.
Yeah, and I said yes, and I remember Ronnie Whelan, Hereford, they were in the 3rd division at the time. I remember Ronnie the next day saying after I agreed, he says, "Why didn't you talk to me?" I says, "I just wanted to
play.
Go and play. So I went there and it was difficult. It was a change, like
Very direct,
completely from what you had been playing. But I played in the league and played in the FA Cup, and that's, I was talking to someone when I was kind of finished, and they say, I'd maybe say, Jesus, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have gone there, but I got to play in the English League.
Yeah.
I got to play in the FA Cup, and I remember as a boy, the FA Cup, I used to have a ball under my arm, and when the match of the day music would come on, I'd run out with it, and like to say you're on match of the day, playing in it. Now you kind of look back and say, well, that was nice to do.
Yeah, I need to get to the Rovers stuff here. So you come back. I won't mention who you come back to. We'll just skip that bit, right? Because it's north side and we don't get involved.
Well, there's three. Being honest, there's 3 clubs involved.
Yeah.
And kind of you're coming back, and I had 2 offers from England, 2 in the lower leagues, from Bradford and Rotherham. Money wasn't very good. I'd had 3 offers here that was decent, and I decided to come back. And
so how did you end up at Rovers? How did that come about?
Well, it was Alan O'Neill was the manager with Terry Everston,
right.
And I just Turlough came to me on the Tuesday because he was back at Bowes, and he said that they'd accepted an offer from Rovers. I think it was 10 grand at the time, which
bargain
was, well, at the time was like
money.
a lot didn't go for.
Yeah, nobody spent money in the league
for
at
much
all.
really, and so they took it. And but the funny thing was, we were both training out at the civil service grounds,
right,
beside each other.
Okay.
So when I signed on the Monday, I would have been training with them. On the Wednesday, I walked by them to train with me new team. So,
and what was it like? You're a bit of a cult hero at Rovers, and obviously the song, scores goals by the dozens. Only one Tony Cousins. Was it instant, or did it develop that relationship with the fans?
I think the fact as well, I supported the club.
Yeah.
I think I went to see the 4 in a row playing. I palled around with a goalkeeper at Home Farm, Jason Dempsey.
Okay.
And his dad used to bring us to the games in Milltown. My dad would go up as well. So, you kind of had that behind me and seeing them at their best. And so when I went in, it was, you wanted to do well.
Yeah, you wanted to have taste what they had that you had seen as a kid.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of have that little bit of history there as well.
So obviously the club was in sort of a bit of financial trouble at the time as well, and they're trying to re-sign you, and they run this raffle to get you to sign.
But at the time when I signed, see, that's the thing. Well, at the time when I signed, there was new owners that were coming in.
Okay.
And
so obviously spending 10 grand on you,
and Pat Fenlon had signed, so we thought this was a real push to really compete, and we actually went to Ringsend. They had premises in Ringsend. We went and saw the Tallaght Stadium, the model for Tallaght Stadium, and so
that's just over there.
So we felt at that time that this was it. This was going to take off.
This was 93, 94, was it?
Yeah, but as the season went on, we realised it wasn't developing that way, and they ended up selling Pat to Linfield.
That's right, yeah. But you won the league that year, 94.
No, we didn't.
Did you? No, I thought
no.
What year was that?
That was later. Like that was 90. That was 95, 96 that we played. But we never won the league. I never won the league at Rovers. No. That was Ray Tracy after that.
Sorry, apologies. Yeah.
But Alan O'Neill and Terry didn't last long. Even they were gone after 4 months, and Pat Bourne took over.
Yeah.
So, and then I had Mick Bourne as manager as well. Who Mick was very good, very knowledgeable on the game, and I liked playing for Mick.
Yeah.
Probably played my best football really.
Yeah.
under Mick.
And how did you end up where your family won everything on the raffle? And I know there was a bit of a, you were meant to get a signing on fee, but you wavered that because obviously the club couldn't afford it as well. And do you think that endeared you to the fans as well?
No, what happened was Joe Caldwell had taken over, and my contract was up at Rovers, and by coincidence there was a raffle. We all bought tickets. You had to buy tickets for it. And I won the raffle, and my dad came second. So there was a few people saying it was fixed.
It was,
I didn't mind, but
did you? Was it a trip around the world you won?
Yeah, but it was. I think when it got down to the nuts and bolts of it, it wasn't a complete trip around the world. But come here, that happened, and then I was talking to a lot of clubs at the time, a good few of the clubs up the north. Yeah. And I think, at that time,
they had money up the north.
Big. And then Joe Caldwell had taken over as chairman. Yeah. And Joe came to meet me, and Joe offered me a 4-year contract to stay, and felt that, by signing it, he said there was another signings going to come on the way. And by me signing it, that would encourage
other people
a few others to sign. And I enjoyed the club. I loved playing for the club, and but you did feel that you wanted to. You always, as a player, you want to challenge, and kind of had that in the first year when I signed. Like, look what we were being shown, the model, Pat Fenlon at the signing. You thought, here we go, and then I signed the 4-year with Joe, who was an absolute gentleman, and he signed Terry Palmer. Jason Caldwell came in, and we put a decent team together. But unfortunately, after the first year, I got injured. I got my first knee problem. So I had a knee injury, and ultimately the money thing, I didn't feel I wanted to take money when I couldn't play. And that was really what it came down to.
All the injuries you've had and the ups and downs you've had, and you're like leaving Chelsea, then leaving Liverpool. What would have been your lowest point of football at that point, and then what would be your highest moment as a footballer? Or do you look at it differently? Do you just look at it as part of the whole journey?
I think I'm quite rounded. Well, do you know what I mean? That's just me belly. No, but I just think it's important not to get too high or too low. And come here, obviously, football is a roller coaster, and I've no doubt about it. It's confidence. When
you never struggled with
confidence. I think, like, when I first went over to Liverpool, obviously you're on an absolute high. I'm scoring goals for the 21s. I'm scoring goals for Dundalk. I remember signing. Just after I signed for Liverpool, I came home, played against Turkey for the 21, scored 2. So you feel that you're really at your best.
In fairness, you had a good relationship with all the Liverpool lads. You had a big wedding, and all the lads came over for it. And seemingly a lot of people are still living off the grushy that was thrown out at the wedding that day.
The kids on the road.
I think some of them put a deposit down on the gaff that day.
But now, so I think, like, football is funny. If I had gone on the day against Southampton, stayed fit, I definitely would have played at some stage because Kenny liked me. It didn't happen. I got injured. Kenny leaves the club. It's so that's sometimes in football, but I think you just got to accept that and move on. And then I don't make any qualms about it. Like, why didn't I stay over there? There's other players had injuries, and even I was lucky enough now to build up a relationship with Joey O'Brien. And he was on my coaching team last year, and we stayed in touch. And look what Joey went through. And he dug in and stayed there. So I don't blame anybody else.
You've obviously you then retired because of knee injuries. Having gone through retirement, that's tough as well when your body doesn't do what your head wants it to do.
I think I had 3 knee operations. I think 29, 30, 31.
Yeah.
I 3 on the same knee, and it is very hard.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see the problem.
And with your body still, I know you got a knee replacement recently, but
I
you've
felt
been better for it. But
yeah.
people don't realise what footballers put their body through just to play.
Oh yeah, like the injuries I've had, like. But would I not do it again?
Yeah, I know.
I'd get out on the pitch tomorrow if I could play. You know, that's something you love doing, and if you're committed, injuries are part and parcel of what you're gonna get, and that's it.
A small bit of your coaching journey. You actually became your first sort of stint in coaching. I know it was at Rovers with the reserves, but your first sort of senior job was at Rotherham in 2005, and in that team is Stephen Bradley, Shane Robinson, Stephen Gray, myself, a lot of lads now that are at Rovers and doing that. Do you take pride in the fact that we've gone into coaching, or the lads have gone into coaching, and what Stephen's doing and what Shane's doing, the fact that you were influenced that as well in that first year?
Yeah, I don't know whether I've influenced that. I think like it was a fantastic experience at Rotherham. Paul was fantastic to work under. You know, learned so much from Paul, and the setup we had. You know, you talk about other clubs that came after us, and they talk about the big setups they had. We were doing things, the gymnasium and everything, before anybody else. You know, and
the first
what
year.
we had in Mosney, you know, the gym instructor, he came in the afternoons. We were doing double sessions, and you know, Paul had implemented all that.
The diet was ridiculous.
Diet and everything you could ask for. We were so well looked after, and it was one of another sad story in the League of Ireland tale that probably
the highlight for you probably was the 2005 Cup final.
It was amazing.
That was a great day out. But I remember being on the bus, me, you and Brad's afterwards. We were going to celebrate, because you had spoke to us about, like, you know, being close and how, you know, to implement into the team and give more to the team. And I remember you came down afterwards and said, "Listen, fair play to us," like, you know. But I remember you obviously you start singing. You loved the song Leroy Brown, and you got up and sing. And like, I remember after the cup final, driving back to Drogheda, and you're at the top of the bus singing Leroy Brown, and it's something that stayed in my memory of that, because I was like, this means something to everybody. It wasn't just us as players, like, you know.
Yeah, I think when you win anything, and for everybody, the work that everybody puts in, and you know, as a manager as well, I saw even Paul, like, people talk about, you know, well, he had a big budget, but the pressure that you're under to win something is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is people that have had big budgets, have never won anything.
I remember his speech the night before the cup final where he got upset, and I stuck with the team where we felt. I remember talking to the lads afterwards. We felt this, we're not losing this.
Yeah.
You know? You then take your turn in management, and you went to Galway, and then you have 6 great years at Longford where you've built the club back up, because obviously they were on their knees at the time. Do you take great pride in that job that you done? And obviously Pat Flynn speaks so well of you, what you brought to the club, and is obviously then you come into your coaching at Rovers under 17s. Have you got any sort of urge to go back into senior management, or are you really helping with the younger players at the minute? Because I know, like, the likes of Darren McGuinness and Michael Leddy and all these strikers are benefiting from having you help them to be strikers, and the little movements that you were talking about earlier.
Well, I think at Longford, I had a brilliant time at Longford, and especially when you look at but for every manager, even no matter what you're doing, like I remember taking the Longford job. I spoke to the chairman about it, and the budget was so small. Yeah. But the main thing I said to the chairman was we had to rebuild confidence for signing players, and, you know, making sure that we paid what we could pay. Yeah. And it was pittance at the time. The players, a lot of our players we brought in from maybe Leinster Senior League and that, and at the start. But the one thing that I said to him, I said, I've no problem once the wages are paid and we can build every window, try increase all the time. Yeah. And we did. If you look at every year, we finished higher than the previous year. I felt the year before we went up, we had a great chance of going up. and we didn't. And obviously I needed a few players in the dressing room, really good pros. I had to identify that, and I signed Stephen Rice, Pat Flynn, Pat Sullivan, players that had been around, but really good pros in the dressing room as well, and that was important, that I had that mix between the younger players but really good pros.
As somebody who's gone through it, how difficult is it losing your job as a manager? Is it?
I think Galway was harder than Longford. I made the decision myself. Right. Like we get promoted at Longford, and and even the season before that, there would have been people saying, "Well, he's there for 4 years. He hasn't got promoted. They wouldn't look at where the club was, where it brought the club, different things. I was bringing teams in from England at the time with the help of Andrew. Yeah. And I was generating money. Yeah. Into the club, but people don't look at that. And then you go and win the league. We got promoted. We finished 6th. Got to the semi-final of the cup. And it's a difficult one because for me, I remember the end of that season and saying, well, how do we go any better?
How do we kick on?
With the budget that I had, I kind of knew I was going to lose. Gary Shaw was going to Rovers. Yeah. I think Gary went for 10 grand, but 10 grand,
to Longford.
It didn't matter for me if I went to the best player in the league, because I wouldn't have had the wages to sign him, and so I had to go back to starting off with a younger player again and trying to develop him. And I just found the transfer, that little period in the transfer market, I found I was dead. Yeah. I didn't find the enthusiasm that I had before. Okay. And hindsight's great, but maybe I should have walked away then. Yeah. But then we went into the season and we struggled. And then I remember one night we went to Wexford. I remember walking down and that was it. Yeah. I just knew, and I rang the chairman. In fairness to the chairman said to me, "Listen, don't make any." We had a brilliant relationship with the chairman, and he said, "Don't make any rash decisions." But the Monday, I still felt I needed a break, and that's why. But I knew I needed a break, so I took a break. Yeah. I didn't do anything then for about 1.5 years.
And how do you, the last thing we'll touch on here, because it's so important to bring it back round, you're in at Rovers now, you've obviously played at the club, you're so well thought of, you've all this experience as a manager. Where's Rovers now compared to was when you were a player, even in the stadium, the academy, and you're bringing that to it? How have you seen that development, and what have you thought of it looking in and also now being a part of it?
It's something that, I'm absolutely delighted for the players, because when you've been a player at the club, and I was a player, I didn't know where I was training. Yeah. Some Monday afternoons.
Many different grounds would you play in as well as home grounds?
Talca, Dalymount, Santry. Yeah. And then, but training was really the worst. Yeah, was it? We were at a stage, we were in Corkick Park. The Ranger would kick us out of there sometimes, and we didn't know in the afternoon where we were going to train in the evening. Yeah. And the expectation was still there. Yeah, you still had to win. Within the club that, no matter what team we had, the expectation was for us to still do well. Yeah. And yet we didn't have the backup there. Yeah. That was needed either. Yeah, the pressure was there without the privilege of the stuff that we were talking about. Yeah, exactly. And the bottom line is you need money to bring the best players in. Yeah. And so it's a catch situation. Yeah. And but I'm absolutely thrilled for the players now. And even in the academy, I walk across the ground. Even last week I was on my own up on the pitch, and you're thinking back and saying, my God, it's fantastic. And you just hope that the young players, they do realise what they have up there, and the gym and the facilities that they have, and the work that all the coaches are putting in.
Yeah.
You know, there's massive effort being put in from everybody in relation to what's happening. And you know, and you look at our first team now, you know, it's a pleasure to watch them.
Yeah.
You know, we're playing some brilliant football, and you know, this year as well, we've introduced, like a lot of people were criticising we're not playing young players, and it is very difficult. Like the mandate for the first team manager is to win the league, win the cup, get through rounds in Europe. That's the Shamrock Rovers manager now. That's his remit. And it's not easy to introduce young players to that as well. And I think this year the great thing is that the manager has done that, and you know what I mean. So I think it gives vibrancy to the academy as well, because other players see these young players getting a little chance, and they can identify, and they come up. Even the younger lads, they come up on the Monday or the Wednesday, and the next minute these lads are back training with the 19s, and they see them, and you know, it's a little bit real for them that, hold on a minute, I play for this club as well, that could be me.
Yeah, we had a group watching the game, and I said, you're 3 years away from what Justin did. Like 3 years, 3 seasons, and there you go. Right. I said, but what are you going to do to get there? And I says, we'll help, but what are you going to do to get there? And that's the thing.
I love the 17s. I love that age group.
Yeah. I
think they're coming from boys to preparing them for men.
Yeah.
Because I think within a year or a year and a half, they can be on the radar, and they have been on the radar of Bradzer and Macker and Glenn. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's preparing them for that.
Yeah, it's bringing them
you know, and trying to make them that little bit more mentally tough.
Yeah.
That they're ready, and you know, identifying things with their game that can help them. And you know, we've got a great coaching staff. Chris McDonald's been with me now a few years, and Chris puts huge work in to the clips, the video clips, and you know, we feel like it's a massive part of their learning when you're able to show them that. And we use that an awful lot.
Yeah, you rock the video room a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously you bring it onto the pitch as well. But last year, you know, that's the great thing. You never know. We said to the players even this year, we 2 players last year because of COVID ended up playing in Waterford.
Yeah, that's right.
So
you won the league last year as well.
In football, you never know. And then obviously Justin now, he's got a chance. Yeah. Which is great.
You said something earlier walking up about how your dad was honest, and I met you in 2005, and I've probably stayed in contact with you ever since. You're one of the most honest people I know, and it's something that I think you have this affection for football, and you have affection for good people, and we really appreciate you giving your time here today. And it was a pleasure from somebody who's probably looked up to you as well to have you here, so thanks very much, and we really appreciate it.
I was just delighted I was able to reach here.
You can't see it. Just glad you made it up.
Is there a bus to bring me home?
Going back there, come on, jump on there. Yeah,
it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're talking and you're going over.
Yeah,